Hey everybody. I've been making electronic music for a while now, and uploading it to the internet and whatnot. And one of the most consistent questions that I keep getting asked about is how do you actually record these things, right? So like you got your cool synthesizer setup, right? But now how do you actually go about like recording it, turning it into music, right? Incorporating it into your already existing music. That's what we're going to talk about today. So the first important thing that you need to know is you need some way to get your analog signals into a digital format, right? And there's plenty of ways that you can do this, okay? And they all really depend on what type of music you're trying to make and your goals with recording your synthesizers. So for me, when I started out, I knew like I had gotten one synthesizer and I knew it was not going to be enough to just be standalone. And at the time I was really into just making like straight up like EDM, you know? And so I was looking to incorporate my synthesizers into that workflow, right? And so at the time, the best choice for me was a classic audio interface. Right. And that's still the one that I have today. And so this, the classic, right? Everybody feels like a lot of people have this focus right nowadays, and it's only failed on me once in my life. And it took me like probably less than 30 minutes to fix it. So it wasn't really that big of a deal. But yeah, so it's been reliable for like 4 years that I've had it. But yeah, anyway, so what it allows me to do is take this and run the audio channels individually into FL Studio. And that is, the sort of workflow that I needed at the time. There are other ways to get analog signals into a digital format, right? You can straight up use a mixer, right? Those are popular, but the difference that I found, at least with the mixers that I've like tried out, is that you don't get the multiple channels in your digital audio workstations. And now that's probably only true for like the lower end mixers that like my buddies had and I had, you know what I mean? But I haven't personally tried like just a home mixer, right? That had multiple outputs, you know what I mean? So that was like literally the only reason why I got an audio interface is because I could record the channels individually. I know, for instance, After Later Audio released a module recently that actually, and I've only looked at it, haven't tried it out yet, but apparently you can just run a stereo mix into it and just USB connect it into your computer. Haven't tried it out, but it looks cool. There's also there's like wave recording modules out there, right? Which is pretty convenient. Even the Nebulae will do the same thing, right? I think it has like a 5 or 10 minute recording window you can use, right? So there's not really like one way of turning your synthesizers into a digital format. But it's really just like shop around and find what you need. You know what I mean? So if I were to firstly do it again, I would probably still stick with an audio interface, but I would definitely get more inputs, right? The 2-channel inputs that I got from this thing was like the second cheapest option or whatever. And it worked for me at the time, and it gives you stereo inputs, and that's fine, you know what I mean? But for a lot of things, I wish I could like record multiple tracks at once, right? So I'd either do this or get something like a multi-track recorder, right? They have a bunch of those, but they're pretty expensive, like little handheld guys. Anyways, so that's the first thing. Right? If you want to record your synthesizers, you have to find some way of actually getting it into that digital format, right? Don't just put a phone up to your speakers. You know what I mean? We'll next do some zooming in, and I'll show you guys like what the process of recording for me actually looks like. let's say you actually have a cool patch going, and you want to record it. So the first thing that I always do before I start recording, is tune, frankly, right? These synthesizers are literally just an instrument, right? And if you have any analog hardware in there, well, analog oscillators, the frequency of that oscillator is dependent on literally the components that make it up. Yeah, those components literally can change their effectiveness based on temperature, right? So I'll literally take like a tuner, and right here I just have a basic little guy, right? So I'll plug this in. So the easiest case, right, is if I'm trying to tune like the mini brute, right? So what I'll do is I'll literally take this and just plug it into like an available output that I'm not using, right? So like I've got this triangle wave that isn't doing anything. And I can see I've got a G sharp and it's a little sharp. So I'll go through and I'll tune it. Boom. And now we're good. And I'll literally go through every single voice in my system and tune it. Okay, so now that the system's tuned, we've got to balance it, okay? This is just another interesting part, right? And if you don't have stereo outputs, then you don't really have to worry about this, right? But if you want to, record anything in stereo, this is the way that I go about it. And it might not be the best way, but it's a way that works for me. I mean, I can definitely write like a Python script that like automates this on the software side for me. But I just am too lazy for that shit. Anyways, so what we can do, so I'm actually going to open up my mixer track, or my mixer here in FL, and I'll give it these audio inputs, right? So if I hit play on here, you can see we actually, and you know what, dude? Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll get a decibel meter. So Fruity dB meter, this is pretty cool. Super simple to use. I'll usually make it large, right? Okay, so got a decibel meter. We got our interface, got the synthesizer, okay? So here's the thing. So recently I actually balanced the outputs because I was recording like a little TikTok. So what do we want to do though, right? We want to make sure that the left and the right channels are coming in at the same volume, right? So how do we do that? This module right here is my main mixer, right? The cockpit squared by endorphins, or endorphin ES, endorphin.es, who knows? So what can we do, right? Take a mono channel in this and play it through both of the voices. Give it a steady like reference sound. I'm pretty sure even like a DC offset would work for this. So I'll go ahead and literally what I'll do, right? I'll unplug every other channel just because I don't want any bleed in my system, right? So this boy and that boy. Okay. I don't want any bleed in my system. Okay. So then what we can do, let's take, let's take this guy from before. Okay. And then I can take an output, just a reference voltage, put it in here. Cool. And now you will definitely, so if you're doing this and you don't have like a dedicated mixer, you're going to want to attenuate this output. All right. So you can see with this sort of reference tone, we look at the left and right channels here. And with that, they look pretty freaking balanced, right? And again, that's because I recently did this process for another video. But this is what I do before I start recording anything, right? Have to make sure that the stereo channels are coming in at the same volume. And so it looks pretty good here. And it's also important, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to notice a freaking like 0.01 decibel difference, especially when you're recording at this high of a level. So anyways, once that's good, once I know that my left and right channels are at the same relative level, we can go back through and connect everything up again. So now that we have the recording system set up, let's actually look at how we can record it inside of software. I use FL Studio, so I'll show the process with that, but generally speaking, it's going to be pretty similar. What we can do is open up an instance of Edison here, and this is like the audio recording software that FL Studio has. So I'll record usually on play. I'll hit that, I'll put it in the same channel that my inputs are in, and I'll hit record, and I'll just hit play on this pattern, and it starts recording. Once it starts recording, what we can do on my synthesizer, I'll hit play. And it's as simple as that. When I don't want it to record anymore, I'll just hit stop on those, and we get our new little audio signal. What we can do is just take it and drag it onto the playlist and fuck with it from there. So that's pretty cool. Recording with synthesizers isn't anything crazy, right? We just have to make sure that we have some way of getting our analog signal to a digital signal. And then it's just a matter of tuning it if you have analog equipment, analog oscillators, I should say, and balancing it if you're using stereo signals. There's plenty of other software that you can use to record. Even like Python has a wave package in their standard library. Audacity you can use, that's free software for recording. So that's it, everybody. If you have any questions, let me know. But good luck recording your synthesizers.